To present the Oscar for Supporting Actor is one of the most glamorous people in this or any other business, and you better believe it. Wait till you see what's going to come out here. She herself was a Best Supporting Actress nominee for her role in Silkwood, and this year won acclaim for her work in Mask. Ladies and gentlemen, in a word, Cher.
March 24th, 1986. Cher makes fashion history, attending the 58th Academy Awards in a Bob Mackie outfit, more extravagant than anything seen at the ceremony before or since.
This is one of my favorite outfits. I said, I want to have a mohawk and I want to do something that's not actually Indian, but I want it to be so over the top that it's next week. I had the idea mostly because the Academy didn't really like me, so I thought they hated the way I dressed and I had young boyfriends and they just thought I wasn't serious, so I came out and said,
as you can see, I did receive my Academy booklet on how to dress like a serious actress.
For several years, Cher had been trying to transition away from her glitzy, comedic TV pop singer persona of the 1970s to that of a leading Hollywood actress. And by this point, March 1986, she had made it. She took the starring role in Mask, where she plays a drug-using biker chick whose son is horribly disfigured by craniodiaphyseal dysplasia. She was great. Her performance gave her the 1985 Cannes Film Festival Award for Best Actress.
I'd just like to say that I would like to thank the festival, and I would also like to thank my mother for having the good taste to have me on the 20th of May so I could receive this as the best birthday present of my life. Thank you.
So when she was snubbed by the Academy Awards a year later and did not receive a nomination for Best Actress, she enjoyed the sweet taste of revenge by wearing a dress that upstaged anything else happening at the Oscars that night. Mask changed her career, changed her life, and just 2 years later, she did receive an Oscar for her performance in Moonstruck.
Snap out of it!
But none of this would have happened had it not been for a chance meeting between a woman and a teenage boy years earlier, in a world far removed from that of Cher's ultra-glamorous milieu.
The role that you play in Mask, it seems to be very important to you, and I was wondering if there was a special reason.
It's very important because, first of all, it's a true story, and it so moved me when I read it that I just felt that people should see this and that I wanted to be a part of it.
It was around 1978 that a writer, Anna Hamilton-Phelan, then training as a genetics counselor at Harbor General Hospital in West Carson, California, met a teenager named Roy Lee Dennis, known as Rocky, who was being raised by a single mother.
The mother, who's a flamboyant California biker with an affinity for drugs, who bravely raises her little son Rocky, a little boy with a rare disease that eventually distorts his face into a cruel mask of deformity. But she gives him no pity, no compensation. She raises him to feel special, gifted, better than most. And for all intents and purposes, at the age of 17, when he died, he felt just that way about himself.
Anna Phelan was so moved by her interactions with Rocky and his mother Rusty that she decided to write a script about them. For inspiration, she tacked one of Rocky's poems to her wall. It made its way into the script, and 2 photos, one of Rocky and one of Cher. From the beginning, she imagined Cher in the role.
I finished the script, and I lay in my bed, and I cried, and I cried. And then I went downstairs, and there were strangers in my kitchen and talking, friends of my sister and her husband, and I started trying to talk to them for about 5 minutes, and I broke down hysterically crying, and I cried for about another 45 minutes, and I just was so moved.
Were you the first choice for Mask?
Was I the first choice for that? No, I was the first choice by the writer, and I was the first choice by the producer and the director, I was not the first choice from the studio.
Well,
They had wanted, and I understood this, they had wanted Jane Fonda to do it.
which is so, if you've seen the movie now, it'd be so silly. She'd be saying to the kid, I don't care what you look like, stretch, you know. That's like, make it burn, make it burn, make it burn.
6 months after Anna Phelan submitted her script to Universal Pictures in 1983, Peter Bogdanovich was hired to direct. Filming took place throughout Southern California from May through July of 1984. From the start, Cher and Bogdanovich were at odds.
It was very strange because when we would talk about the character, we both agreed. When it actually came to the filming and how she would do her lines, we had a major breakdown of communications. And I felt if I had such strong feelings, I better go with those instincts, because it would have killed me to have followed someone else's advice and then seen it up on the screen and hated it. I would rather have failed on my own than, and seen it up there and think, okay, you were wrong. And I know that that's probably not the most realistic way to look at it because it's millions of dollars, but I felt I knew her better than he did.
She said he was very nervous because his book about his murdered girlfriend, Dorothy Stratton, was coming out at the time. He'd take his troubles out on her, and she'd hit back. She refused to follow his line readings. She didn't want someone telling her how to act. At one point, she stormed into the trailer of Eric Stoltz, the 22-year-old playing her son Rocky, and collapsed into hysterics. "How am I going to do it?" she cried. They disagreed about everything, even the length of Laura Dern's hair. She played Rocky's girlfriend. Bogdanovich wanted to cut her hair short. Cher yelled, "Don't you do that, Peter. Rocky loves her long blonde hair." He shouted back, "Cher, don't get involved in this." They left it long. Cher felt she knew more about the characters than he did. In her view, Peter was too much of an upper-middle-class European intellectual, someone with little familiarity with working-class life, and certainly not with 1970s California bikers.
We've referred to you, we've described you, we've read about you as being a biker. What exactly does that mean? Do you ride with a motorcycle gang? Are you a part of a gang?
I ride with bikers. I'm a biker. What can I say?
What's a typical day like for a biker?
Like a typical day for anybody. Depends on what you're talking about. If you're going on a run, you get up and you hurry up, or they'll leave you behind, and you jump on the back of a motorcycle and you get in the wind, and then you go somewhere and you party down and you put up tents and camp out, and sometimes you stay in motels. It's kind of like a constant vacation. Bikers are like gypsies. We travel a lot, especially when the weather's good, and sometimes even when it's not good. I rode for 6 hours in the rain in Washington and Oregon a couple of years ago. I rode in New Mexico with hailstones as big as that,
Matters between Cher and Bogdanovich got worse once the film was complete. "He screwed up my work as far as I'm concerned," Cher said. For one thing, Bogdanovich cut out her favorite scene against her wishes. In it, her son comes to her rescue after she has a nervous breakdown. The next big problem started a month before the movie's release, when Bogdanovich filed a $19 million lawsuit against the producers when they cut 2 scenes without his consent, a song at a campfire and a biker's funeral.
I turned to him when we saw the film and I said, why didn't they do a biker's funeral? I'm sure that they would have done.
They had a biker's funeral. In the funeral, Red dies. And it's Red's funeral. He's the president of the club. And they show them shooting guns and partying, and lowering the bike into the grave, and people throwing things into the grave, ripping stuff off their cut-offs and throwing them into the grave. And Rocky's sitting off by himself, and kind of just thinking. And Cher goes over and she said, "Do you want to throw something into the grave, Rocky?" And he looks back and he says, "No," he said, "Red's not in there. He's here now. He's with us. He's free. He's everywhere."
You okay?
Yeah.
We okay?
Yeah, Ma. We're okay.
You gonna throw something in the grave? I don't want to say goodbye to Red. He's not over there anymore. He's everywhere now. It's like he used to say, Mom. Nobody ever really dies.
Removal of the sequence shot at Camp Bloomfield was especially bad due to the wonderful, lively performance Cher gives of the Coaster song Little Egypt.
Well, let me tell you people, Little Egypt doesn't live here anymore.
Thankfully, both scenes were restored for the director's cut DVD in 2004.
Do you think the fact that they changed the music from Bruce Springsteen to Bob Seger hurt the film overall?
I don't really think so. I mean, it's just my opinion, but I'm very close to the film, as close, if not closer than a lot of other people. And I care about the film a lot, and I don't see that there's a huge difference.
Rusty Dennis, on the other hand, took Bogdanovich's side.
Should have been Bruce Springsteen's music, and they got Bob Seger cheaper, so they used him.
I did want Bruce Springsteen. Bruce Springsteen was the person that was in the back of our minds from the beginning of the film.
But Rocky enjoyed Bruce Springsteen?
Yeah.
And Bob Seger?
He didn't, I don't think he even knew who Bob Seger was. I certainly didn't. Or at least if I did, I didn't know who the artist was that did Cat Me and Do. I'm sure I'd heard Cat Me and Do, you know. It was just not appropriate for the movie. Originally, it began with Badlands and it ended with Promised Land. They used a couple of other cuts in the middle, you know, at various emotional scenes that Rocky went through during the movie. They used some of Springsteen's things. You know, one of them I think was growing up. Just things that he could relate to, you know, which made a lot more sense than what they actually did.
Cher felt Bogdanovich was making a big fuss over nothing, claiming that the two cut scenes were insignificant, Springsteen's financial demands were unfair, and the lawsuit gave the film bad publicity.
And it was over money, wasn't it?
Yeah, they wanted, 25% of the cassette rights. I don't think that was right.
The bitterness between the two camps reached its apex in May at the Cannes Film Festival, where Mask was one of 3 U.S. selections in competition. A press conference was held with Cher and the film's producers. Among other things, Cher was asked whether she would work with Bogdanovich again. Answer? No.
I mean, it's no secret in America that Peter and I didn't really get along. And I have my own, philosophy and my own ideas about Peter Bogdanovich, and I don't think that they're necessarily important for you to know. But, it's not my job to really qualify Peter or the film or anything. My work is done, and you can make your judgments on my work. It's up there. I don't have to try and sell you. And also, I think from working with Peter, it's no surprise to me that Peter would serve his own interest before serving the film's interest. Oh, let's all whistle.
An hour later, Bogdanovich, accompanied by Rusty Dennis, held his own press conference in a hotel suite a few blocks away.
Mr. Bogdanovich had not been invited by the film's production company, Universal, because he'd fallen out with them. But he turned up anyway, to complain of alterations which had been made to the film without his permission.
By removing the other scene, the scene at the end makes very little sense.
La scène à la fin n'a pas beaucoup de sens.
And the audience says, what's that? What are you talking about? What song?
Bogdanovich complained about the cuts he was forced to make, the absence of Bruce Springsteen songs, and made several snide comments about Cher. As you know, he said, in the Robert Altman film Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean, Cher had a few scenes and no close-ups. In Silkwood, she had no close-ups. Several members of the press were heard hissing at his remarks. He said Cher was insecure and didn't know what she was doing since it was the first time she had to carry a film on her own. Quote, "The relationship between me and Cher was difficult. The reason was she didn't trust me. She doesn't trust men." A few people booed when he said that. None of the controversy mattered to the success of the movie at all. It received national attention, mostly positive reviews, and was a box office hit. Shortly after its release, Bogdanovich dropped his lawsuit.
This is one of the most beautiful love stories we've had in the movies in quite a long time, the love story between the mother and the son. Mask pulls out all the stops in the story, giving Cher not only a lot of emotion, but also a drug problem to beat. It also gives the boy Rocky a love affair at his summer camp with a blind girl. Now, I presume all of this is true. It's based on a true story, we're told. It has to be true because no writer, I think, would have dared to make all of this up.
Everyone involved in Mask tried to get all the details right, making it as true to life as possible.
In the picture, there was a very touching scene with Rocky and his little blind girlfriend. Did he have a friend that was blind, or was that just added to the film?
No, he actually did have a girlfriend from the camp who was blind. Laura Dern, the girl who plays the blind girl, she and Eric hung around the camp for a while, so Laura could learn to play blind. And one of the camp counselors told Laura that Rocky not only had a crush on a blind girl, she was blonde. And originally in the script, Anna wrote her as a dark-haired girl. And then Peter cast her as a blonde girl. So,
what truly makes Mask a wonderful movie is Cher's raw, deeply emotional performance. Has she ever been more beautiful in a film than she is in Mask? Her curly red pre-Raphaelite hair, her luminous skin, her marvelous cheekbones, her toned body in tight biker babe gear, but most of all, her eyes. Shortly before his death, Peter Bogdanovich told an interviewer, Cher is very good in close-ups because she had very sad eyes. They seemed to be lamenting the whole world.
Mask asks us to confront physical deformity head-on, face-to-face, realize that it isn't the big deal that we think it is, that we should be looking at people's hearts, not their faces.
I see exactly why Rocky was here and exactly why he beat the doctors for so many years. What this movie has done for deformed people and the parents of these kids is fantastic. I think, now I know why Rocky was here. I can see what his being here has done for the world. It's great.